Hello and welcome back. Today we will be focusing on percentage, decimals and fraction because all three of them are closely linked. Okay, so let's start off with one whole. So these facts need to be memorized. You just need to know them. Okay, there's no other way. You have to know these facts in order for you to tackle questions on percentage, fractions and decimals. So let's start off with the first one. That is one whole. So one whole is the same as 100%. If you've got a whole cake, that's 100% of the cake. If you've got a whole book, one whole book, that's 100% of the book. Okay, now that is the same as 1.0. So this is how it looks as a normal integer, and then this is how it looks as a decimal. So as a decimal it would be 1.0. As a whole number it'd just be 1, which is equivalent to 100%. And in here I have written some fractions which are also equivalent to 100%. So for instance, if you in a test, if you score 14 out of 14, you have scored 100%. If you have scored 2 out of 2, you have also scored 100%. If you score 6 out of 6, 100 out of 100, 10 out of 10, it's still the same as 100% because the denominator tells you how many pieces or how many there are, and the numerator tells you how many you've got. So all of these fractions are telling you that you've got all the pieces or all the numbers available, all the, you've got full marks basically. And when you get a full mark in anything, that's 100%. Okay, so that's one whole is the same as 100%, which is the same as 1.0 as a decimal. And these are some of the fractions that are the same as 100%. There are many more fractions which are the same as 100%. Have a think of a few more and see if they are correct. Okay, let's have a look at the second one. Let's look at half. So a half is 50% because a half of 100 is 50. Okay, so there's the link. Half is 50% because half of 100 is 50. As a decimal, you would write 0.5. Sometimes you may see it as 0.50, and it might make a little bit more sense to people when you add a 0 at the end. Not always, the 0 is not always there, but you can add a 0 at the end to make it a little bit to make it more sense to yourself, really. But it's 0.5. The 0 at the end just means nothing. 0.5 is telling us that there are 5 tenths. 5 tenths make 50%. And if you look at the fractions, look, 5 tenths is here. 5 out of 10. That's 50% because that's half. 3 out of 6. If you score 3 out of 6 in a test, you have got half the marks. That's 50%. If you score 50 out of 100, that's also 50%. If you score 4 out of 8, that's also 50%. If you score half of the total score, then it's also 50%. So all these fractions are equivalent fractions which all equal to 50%. They all equal to a half. Okay. Let's move on to a quarter. Now, a quarter is 25% because a quarter is a half of a half. When you quarter a number, you half it and then you halve it again. So it's half of a half. Half of 50 is 25%. Oh, just before, sorry, I forgot to mention, I've written divide by 2 here. That means that if you have a number and you want to work out 50% of that number, then you need to divide by 2. It's as simple as that. Any number, if you want to find out 50% of a number, you need to divide by 2. So for instance, if you've got 1,000, what's 50% of 1,000? Well, divide 1,000 by 2. What is it? It's 500. So 50% of 1,000 would be 500. So you just need to divide the number by 2 to get 50%. Okay, sorry about that. Let's move on. A quarter, as I said, is half of a half. So if you half 50, you get 25%. And the way you can work out 25% of a number is by dividing by 4. So if you have a number, for instance, if you have the number 100 and you want to work out 25%, you would just need to divide 100 by 4. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So 25% of 100 would be 25. Let me give you another example. The number 12. What is 25% of the number 12? Well, divide 12 by 3. What do you get? Sorry, divide 12 by 4. What do you get? If you divide 12 by 4, you get 3. So 25% of 12 is 3. So any number, if you want to find out 25% of that number, just divide it by 4. As a decimal, it looks like 0.25. And these are some of the fractions that are equivalent to 25%. So you've got 1/4, you've got 4/16, you've got 10/40, you've got 2/8, you've got 25/100. All of these are equivalent fractions. They are the same as 1/4, and 1/4 is the same as 25%. Okay. Let's move on to a third. 1/3 is 33%, which is the same as 0.33 as a decimal. If you want to work out 1/3 of any number, you have to divide by 3. Okay, so divide by 3 and you get a third. Okay, these are some fractions that are the same as 33%. 1/3, 3/9, 10/30, 5/15, 4/12. All of these are equivalent fractions to 1/3, and 1/3 is the same as 33%. There are many more fractions which are equivalent to 1/3, and I can't write all of them down here. I've just given you a few examples in each one. Okay, so you just need to learn these facts and memorize them. 1 whole is 100%, which is equal to 1.0. Half is 50%, which is equal to 0.5. And if you want to work out half of 50% of a number, you divide by 2. 1/4 is the same as 25%, which is the same as 0.25. If you want to work out 25% of a number, you divide by 4. 1/3 is the same as 33%, which is the same as 0.33. If you want to work out 33% of a number, you divide by 3. Okay, I've got one more sheet to go through. Right, this one. These are really important as well. 1/10. 1/10 is the same as 10%, which is the same as 0.1. Because if you put a 0 at the end of 1, you can see the 10. Yeah, so that makes a bit more sense, doesn't it? So 1/10 is the same as 10%, which is the same as 0.1 or 0.10. If you want to work out 10% or 1/10 of a number, what do you have to do? You just divide the number by 10. 5% in relation to 10%, what's the relationship? It's half of 10%, isn't it? 5 is half of 10. 5 is half of 10, so 5% is half of 10%. So all we did with the fraction, if you half 1/10, you get 1/20th. Okay, if you to halve a fraction, all you need to do is double the denominator. So half of 1/10 is 1/20th, which is the same as 5%. 5% is half of 10%, and as a decimal, this is how it looks: 0.05. So 5% is 0.05. 4% would be 0.04. 3% would be 0.03. 2% would be 0.02, and 1% would be 0.01, not 0.1, because that's 10%. 1% would be 0.01. Okay, so 5% is 0.05. If you want to work out 5% of a number, you have to divide by 10. That will give you 10%, and then you just halve it to get 5%, because 5% is half of 10. Okay, and then finally, this one is really important as well. 1/100th. 1% is the same as 1/100th, because percentage is out of 100, and if you've got 1 out of 100, you've got 1%, which is the same as 0.01, which I mentioned earlier here. And if you want to work out 1% of a number, you just divide by 100. Please memorize these facts. These facts are crucial for you to solve percentage, decimal and fraction word problems and problems, just calculations in general. So learn these facts, memorize them, and please watch part 2 of this video to learn how to turn fractions into percentage. Okay, see you soon. Bye.